Hi, guys. We have the incredible Estelle Bingham on today. She is a holistic therapist, energetic healer, author, speaker, a metaphysical teacher with over 20 years of experience facilitating deep emotional, spiritual, and energetic transformation. And I'm really looking forward to going through everything in your journey today and also bringing as many tips to you guys that are listening as possible. So, welcome, Estelle. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to getting into today's episode. So, first things first, I wanted to ask you, you are known as the heart whisperer. What does that mean?
That means that I have a way with people's hearts, and it's a gift that I'm, that's just it has evolved. But it's a what it means is that I am able to facilitate spaces where people can really open their hearts and feel themselves through their hearts in ways that often they haven't before. So when people come to see me in my one-to-ones, for example, or I'm doing a talk or I'm doing a retreat, in the first sessions in that heart meditation, often what happens is there's what I call the heart override. And so there may be quite a few tears that come through in those first sessions, but that's because the heart is so relieved to be in a space where it can finally express itself, and we can start releasing and releasing and letting go of the things that really are blocks to experiencing full joy in our lives.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I also think that so often we have that kind of head versus heart kind of dilemma within ourselves. So I really want to get into that today. But I also just want to understand how you came from being a journalist and TV presenter into this whole space and world. I mean, it's so different, isn't it? What happened? What made you choose this path?
Well, actually, I think the path sort of chose me, it was the other way around really. And I write about that in my book, that my journey to doing what I do today. Actually, I learned how to meditate when I was really young. So I was about sort of, 7, 8, 9. I was learning how to meditate and doing TM, actually meditation.
Oh,
And
wow.
I come from, my mother is, she was kind of a hippie in the 60s. So I grew up in that sort of world. But when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I really didn't want to do anything like this. And I wanted to be a TV presenter and a journalist. And so that's kind of, I really went off and manifested that dream. But what I say is that, your destiny, at the end of the day, you can run, but you can't hide, and your destiny comes knocking at the door. So around 29, when I was living in LA, I just had my son, then this part of my life opened up to me. I'd always been helping people, and I think that that's often what happens with um, people who decide to go into this work. They'll find that they were, you've always been sort of empathic. You've always been an empath, picking up on people's energies. People come and talk to you, tell you their problems, people you know, people you don't know, all sorts of different things. So it's like, how do you really fine tune that? And, what does that look like? And, when you want to sort of, I suppose, pivot and bring that into the world as a sort of a gift, really. You're gifting yourself and the world with the thing that you can do really well. So it's a superpower. But yeah, it was always, it's sort of in me. And then I just, having done all the sort of, journalism and the TV presenting, it was that moment of its time to, it's such a privilege, but to help people find themselves, express their joy, live their truth.
And I'm fascinated with the idea of a 6-year-old meditating. I have a niece who is 5 and she's very grown up and very wise in her own way, but the idea of her sitting there meditating is just so foreign to me. But I also find it incredible. And I think, especially in today's world with children, it is something that is such a special practice to bring into a child's life. But how does that happen? Is that because you're seeing your parents at home live this certain lifestyle? Is it siblings? How does that even come about? And what does that look like? I know how it looks for me to be meditating in the morning, but how does it look for a 6-year-old to be meditating? How does that come about?
Well, actually, in this day and age, we've kind of come, we've gone such a long way away from as children what it means to be present. So in this day and age, what the basic thing to do is to bring children back into really meditative play. And what I mean by meditative play is just present play. So whether that's being in the garden, whether it's climbing a tree, whether it's planting flowers, seeds, whether it's walking the dog, like whatever it is, it's this idea of play that isn't technology based. And I
Yeah.
suppose I call that meditative play because it's just present. It's slightly misleading, but it's just play that is present where children can just be
Mhm.
children. So obviously, when we take that a step further and we think about what it means to be sitting in sort of lotus position, that's not really, meditation doesn't have to look like that as
Yeah.
well. So when we are doing things where we are just becoming present, we are changing our brain state and we're changing our brain waves actually from beta to theta and alpha. So meditative state you can find those moments in the world, not just in lotus position, not just
Yeah.
on the mat. But as in TM and different types of meditation, that you don't give a child a seated meditation until they're a little bit older, so until they're like 10.
Mm.
But you have a walking mantra. So, and that's you can walk and just do that mantra. It's a mantra. Transcendental meditation is mantra based, and that's just having a word that we obviously repeat and brings our mind state into meditative. As I said, it changes the brain state, but it's walking because they understand that
Yeah.
children, there is too much energy. It's not about suppressing our energy as children as well. It's about really meeting the energy. And when we think about what it looks like today, childhood today, the great thing to, I suppose, bring in or strive for, and it's not easy in our modern world, but is to allow children to really embody their energy, to be in their energy. Because
Mm.
when they're sitting down on computer games, not moving, I mean, we know that this generation of children, I think, move less than prisoners in high security prisons that get like, I don't know, 10 minutes every 3 days or 10 minutes a day to walk around. The children today move less on average. So what we want to think about is actually allowing children to be in their bodies and feel their energy. And that's what that meditation practice was really also about. It was about, you can't make a child sit down in lotus position. They're going to
Yeah.
want to walk and move, but how do you start to get them to think about or be with something that's mantra based, and start to empty the mind and begin to sort of plant that practice in the psyche.
And also weaving it into their daily life because you're so right. I think it's really interesting because this whole technology addiction that we see in ourselves, but also in children, it is actually all about suppressing our energy, but also our emotions and kind of the real world. And I've never really heard it explained like that and brought to life like that. And I think it's such a good reminder, but it's also so difficult. I'm about to have my first baby this year, so I'm looking
Congratulations.
for, thank you. So I can only kind of try and relate to parents having that feeling like their child, all they want is that to give them their iPad because it just gives them a moment of peace. But what are like useful kind of tangible tips that people at home can try to to encourage a lifestyle that encourages their child to be playful and present and doing things that it's funny, isn't it? Because we often say like, oh, they're just, we say it in a negative way, almost like, oh, they're just full of energy. But actually it's about encouraging that energy and bringing it out and rather than suppressing it. So how can parents do that? What are some of the tips that you think would work on children today?
Well, I think it's, this is we find ourselves as sort of in an era or an epoch of a kind of like there's a culmination of things happening at the same time. So when I had my son 22 years ago, he's 22 this year, and it
Oh.
it was actually the beginning of it was right at the beginning of people using technology or videos or putting our babies or children in front of this in order to and to kind of help us create more time for ourselves. And really one of the things that is important when we're new mothers and also mothers of at this time is to be really compassionate. So when we make suggestions, they are really compassionate ones, and I think it starts from that place. We were never meant to parent alone, and we were never meant to parent in little, in our little bubbles and doing our things on our own. We were always meant to be in a village. We were always meant to have, aunts. Everyone was an auntie. You were meant
Like
to
community
have
support
the
around you.
community support because it's tough. It
Mm.
really is. Like there's so many different things happening for young women when they give birth for the first time or even the second time or third time. But it's there's so much coming at you, and the world and life moves so quickly, and there's so many expectations. So I would say the first place to start is with compassion. And what pregnancy, but actually having a child, your first child does to you, and I see this time and time again, is it's the great leveler. It's the big moment of actual reflection on who you are and where you're at. Because
Mm.
before that, we are often masking. So before that, in our 20s or early 20s or early 30s, we are responding to the early parts of our childhoods, and so we're kind of often like we've got a lot of energy to get things done, and I'm gonna
Mm.
be top of my game, and we go out and we have big careers or we do whatever we do. And when we have a child, what it does is it levels everyone out to the same place, because ultimately everyone has hormones moving through their bodies. Everyone has to get up all, through the night. Some people are lucky enough to have night nannies or nannies, but whatever it is, wherever you're at, it takes you by storm on one level, right?
Yeah.
It's because no one can prepare you for motherhood, and it's meant to be an
Kind of like
initiation.
unmasks everyone.
And it unmasks everyone, because and which is a gift, and there are moments in our lives that are such massive gifts, and being a mum is one of those times. So I would say the first thing to think about is actually just meeting this moment with real compassion, taking away, stripping yourself of the expectations of what it means to be a mom or how you were mothered, whether that was, whether it felt good or bad to you, but just actually showing up to each moment and looking to be as present as possible. And I would say that we have got used to, as a culture, we have got used to having sort of doing things on our terms a lot of the time, and becoming a new parent, both mum and dad. It's to do it in a way that is purpose present. We have to actually do things that we don't want to do, and they
Yeah.
are quite boring,
Yeah.
right? So I would say find something, anything, whether it's cooking or whether it's gardening or whether it's making something that you kind of moves you
Enjoy
out,
together.
but also moves you out of your comfort zone. Because what happens is we get so overwhelmed that we don't want the kitchen table to look like a bomb's hit it. We need it to be perfect, because we need to make everything look like it looked before, and it won't look like that. So give yourself a break, be compassionate, but choose something that you maybe that didn't happen for you as a child. Maybe you didn't cook with mum and you wanted to, or maybe you didn't do any reading. Maybe no one read to you at night, and find
Yeah.
something where you can actually grow with your child.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great tip. And also just great for both of you to be in that present moment. You talk a lot about true essence and this concept of finding your true essence and living in your true essence. I think that, well, even for me, I think that when I hear that, I think I understand it, but I also think there's many people out there that hear true essence and think, what the hell is true essence. Like, what is that? How do I find that? How do I live in my true essence? So, can you kind of break that down and explain, firstly, what true essence is and how people can go about finding that and bringing more of that to their day to day?
So for me, what the true essence is it's who we are underneath all of the stuff, so it's actually our original energy. It's our soul energy. You can imagine it to be like your soul or your higher self. When we think about the voice inside, and when we read books, and we've learned about that, obviously, when we're doing different practices, we are looking, ultimately all of them are looking to bring us back to a place of silence where we can hear the inner voice inside, and that's
Mm.
our true nature. So the true nature, which is this, you can imagine it as your soul energy, is your true essence. And that is a part of you that it's your authentic self. So it's a part of you that isn't making excuses, that is unapologetically you, that has boundaries, that isn't a people pleaser, that doesn't feel shame, that doesn't have these moments of, crazy self-loathing where you feel like you're getting it, it's full of doubt and you feel like you're getting it wrong in inverted commas.
Mm.
But you are wrong. Often we have really deep shame wounds that tell us that we're unlovable, that we're too much or we're not enough. And we have this real knowing, this real peace inside that we are enough. So when we touch into our soul essence, when we start to embody our soul essence, even a little bit, like a little bit every day, because it happens over time. Everything starts to shift, obviously, because the way
Yeah.
that we are showing up in the world is shifting, and so therefore, the way that the world then meets us, rises to meet us, will be different.
Yeah, I can just talking from my experience, discovering Pilates and this form of Pilates has helped me live in what I think is my true essence. And one of the almost like green flags for me of knowing I'm in that authentic true essence, whatever you want to call it, is confidence. I really feel I found my inner confidence that I never had before. So maybe you could kind of explain like what true essence green flags versus true essence red flags are. Like, are there things that, for example, I see a lot of like energy givers versus energy takers. Like, what are the signs to show us that this is something we should be doing more of? What are the signs of something that is draining us and causing us to maybe disconnect from our true essence?
Well, one of the things that we do is we will get into a cycle of negative self-talk. So if you have if you have negative self-talk, internal self-talk, then you are not living your true essence.
Yeah.
And also, if you're punishing yourself, and if you're a perfectionist, you are not living your true essence. If you are numbing your feelings, and your feelings feel like they're too much for you, so if you are afraid of your feelings, then you are not living your true essence. Because when we're in our true essence and our sort of truth, we give ourselves permission to be all that we are. So we give ourselves
Mhm.
permission to feel everything that we feel. We allow that to flow. It's about flow. Okay. So when we allow all of the emotions, whether they feel darker, or when we feel the darker emotions, we allow those to flow through us, then we can also feel the lighter ones. We can really feel joy. And what often happens is that people get caught in the middle. They're not really feeling any joy. They're because they're so terrified of letting anything in. They're so terrified of dropping into their hearts, because they feel if they drop into their hearts, that they will, drown in a sea of their own tears, right? Or they'll feel into something. They're afraid of like opening that Pandora's box. And what I say to people is that really what you're doing is you're pulling, it's like pulling a kind of very, very heavy suitcase up a hill. All we need to do is stop, turn around, and cut that suitcase free, so that we can actually get to the top of our hill.
Yeah.
And we are in a
And thrive and
limited
be
way,
in that flow state.
and be in our flow state. So often the red flags are what is your poison? Like, are you how do you, what does that, when we think about self-harm, what does it look like? Are you, are you addicted to shopping? What's your relationship to food and to your body? What's, how do you use
Most like
alcohol?
numbing activities.
So it's the numbing activities, and we're numbing, and though that numbing, having to numb through all different sorts of things, whether it's, sex and love, or can be anything, food, all the things that happen, the ways that the drugs, alcohol, what does that look like in your life? So that's going to be a big red flag. But also, what does intimacy look like? How intimate are you in your relationships? Are you afraid of people really knowing you and seeing you? How does it feel like when you think about showing up like a love relationship? What are you afraid of in that love relationship? Like, do people really know you? Do you feel exposed and terrified of your vulnerability? Do you ever really step into your vulnerability? Because when we step into our true essence, we are fearless. Like, there is a fearlessness
Mm,
because we are giving ourselves permission to be who we are. So I give myself permission to say, I don't like that.
yeah,
I do like this. We give ourselves permission to have a line in the sand. This is a boundary where I end and you begin. It doesn't mean I love you any less. It just means I love myself too. But that boundary is powerful, speaking out that boundary. So if you're not speaking out your boundaries, red flags.
yeah. I love that you said fearless because I can also really relate to that. And I think that's so deep rooted in confidence as well, and having confidence in yourself, but also confident to speak up of things that are, causing you maybe discomfort, but also, just living that way that feels true to you. But I also am interested because I saw this video from Joanna Lumley. I'm not sure if you saw it, where she said, we've all just become this society of people that are so self-obsessed. And she said, we're all as dull as dishwater at the end of the day, but yet we're fascinated by ourselves and doing all this deep work and discovery and everything. And I've also now kind of being in this wellness space, I've had the privilege of being with very interesting people and being in rooms of on retreats and also being around people with a lot of challenges and struggles that are searching for something. And one thing that I've also kind of noticed is at the end of the day, sometimes we can spend too much time on this like self-development, self-discovery journey where that in itself is almost causing more harm than good, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but it's that self-obsession where we don't really know where to draw the line and actually to just thrive and live and just kind of get on with it, as my parents' generation would say. So where do you think the line draws of kind of self-obsession, self-reflection, but also your healing work? Where does it all kind of fall into place?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's sort of somewhere in the middle for me. I did actually see that. I saw Joanna Lumley saying that
Yeah.
on, I don't know, Instagram or something, and I think it was great. It made me laugh. What it's really, what really happens is that we can go into spirals of needing to sort of know or get to the bottom of or understand, and we can get stuck in those spirals. And I think that really a lot of therapy, a lot of people will find that when they do therapy, that they can go round and round in circles. At least that's what I've heard when a lot of people come to see me. They have seen a lot of therapists, a lot of talking therapy, and I think talking therapy is wonderful and it really saves lives. Therapy saves lives. We do our mental
Mm,
health. I mean, I think that what Joanna Lumley is talking about is a sort of spiritual narcissism that can happen where we just are we
yes.
become completely obsessed with ourselves and our journeys, and
I think that's a
you
great
know
way.
and it is a spiritual narcissism actually, and I've really noticed that as the rise in that, and what that really looks like. It's a business. We're in
Mm,
business of wellness now, and so it's a bit of a racket
yeah.
subsequently. And on the other side is really, obviously we are. I work with a charity called Body and Soul, and it's there doing lots of different trauma informed courses and programs, and one of their big ones is around sort of suicide in women and men who are in their early 20s, and when we think about the greatest killer of men under the age of 50, I think is suicide. This idea
Yeah.
that our mental health is real. People do have anxiety and they are depressed, and
Yeah.
the world is moving really quickly and it's changing and things happen. Since COVID, a lot of different things have happened collectively in terms of our mental health. So I
Mm.
feel like it's really important that we don't get also stuck in cycles of intellectually knowing understanding ourselves intellectually,
Mm.
but not really embodying that work, releasing it to move on. I feel it's a journey.
Yeah.
You don't want to get stuck on you don't want to for me, there's a beginning, middle, and end to healing. Not that we're
Yeah.
not constantly evolving, we're evolving till the day that we die. But in terms of the big chunk of healing, so the chunk of healing that's happened, from your childhood, you're working something out, you're doing some inner child work that needs to happen,
Mm.
working out a relationship that you've had with your mother, your father, a bully at school, something's gone down that you need to transform. That really, for me, is the privilege of the lifetime, to make the unconscious conscious, which is what Carl Jung talks about. And it's very important to do that. It's part of our growing, it's part of our adulting
Mm.
to understand who we are. But I do feel like a lot of therapies can take us just round and round in circles. So people will come to see me and they'll say, I've done so much work. That's what I hear all the time. And they'll know what is wrong, that what's, I mean, not right or wrong, but what is what their challenge is. And they'll
Yeah.
be able to tell me, like, really intellectually really well, like read that out, but they haven't really embodied it. So they
Hmm.
haven't really let it go. And
Yeah.
they're stuck. So then we're stuck.
And then I think it kind of, and I'll segue after this into manifesting, because I think there's a link between people, reading the books, doing the things, inner child. Oh, I know this about my inner child. And it's like, okay, but what are you actually going to do about it? What next? And I was having this discussion with my husband a couple of weeks ago, and we were saying that, or he was saying that often people find it's very comfortable to blame someone. And
Mm,
inner child work can be a lot about the blame game. And there's some people that have been in the most horrific situations and I mean unimaginable experiences. And yet they're then able to have their own families and create the most safe, happy home that they haven't learnt through experience. They've learnt through almost having such a negative experience and learnt through the mistakes of that and
yes.
applied that. Whereas you kind of hear of other situations where that kind of really holds heavy on them throughout their whole life and holds them back because they're spending so much time in that blame game, understandably, but less time on the kind of reconstruction of their own life going forward. And yeah, I'm interested what you think about that.
Well, the blame game, I mean, when we're blaming other people, we're not taking responsibility. And one of the biggest things on a healing journey that's going to work, right?
Mm.
So ultimately, you want to get yourself over the line. It's not like we're on a healing journey and we just hang out, in a healing or having a healing journey. Like
Yeah.
we're on a journey.
Fun.
Yeah, like just let's just do this. This is to kind of make that your, the sort of the main focus. It isn't the main focus. Your main focus is to live your life.
Yeah.
Your main focus is to carry on and get on and do the things that you need to do. So when I say manifest your true essence, it's actually manifest your soul's purpose, like get into your soul energy so that you can do the things you need to do, and that can be different for everyone. For one person, it is bringing in a relationship that's really loving, where you are
Mm.
really loved, you're really seen, you're really heard, you're really honored, you're really met properly, deeply, because you've met
Yeah.
yourself deeply. So our destinies are different. Another person maybe they want to, save the world, or someone else may want to write 10 books or paint some pictures or start a business, or whatever it is. Someone might want to start a charity, like whoever, whatever it is that you want to do, or just get to the top of your game where in whatever you're doing. But it's actually, and we need the confidence to do that, the inner confidence, the inner knowing,
Mm.
to make those the right choices so that they're really informed and intuitive. We listen to our intuition, following that. So the reality is that blaming, we don't do inner child work to blame our parents. We do inner child work to find our own inner child as adults, we're adulting that inner child. We are learning how to reparent ourselves. And actually, when we do that, when we actually reparent ourselves and find our inner child, we are becoming more compassionate. And when we become more compassionate, we can see our parents for who they are and
Mm,
and that's what the book is really about. Manifest Your True Essence has different chapters in it because it's a journey. So the ancestral work is really important because our mothers and our fathers are the mothers, they'll be the mothers of unloved mothers, right? Or
yeah.
things that are handed down, and that's science that that's epigenetics that our DNA is changes according to trauma and stories and war and alcoholism and all those addictions, all the different things. Any those things change our DNA, and that gets handed down. So whether we like it or not, that's kind of happening. And
Yeah.
but when we go in and do our own inner child work, we're sort of healing the line, really, and that's what it's about. So it's about taking responsibility. We definitely don't blame other people. That's a sort of that's what we do when we're children. That's when we get stuck in that we're not taking
That cycle.
accountability, and we get
Yeah.
stuck in that cycle. And but from that place, we won't transform. We can't transform because we all have a part we have to show up in, and we have to take accountability and take control.
Yeah, and taking responsibility as well. Like we are, I mean, many of us are fortunate enough to be able to make choices every single day. And our choices, our daily habits, everyone talks about this compound effect, and our choices add up to our overall life and living in that true essence. I want to go into manifesting because it's just the most, I think, hyped buzz
Yes.
of the moment, and there are so many different so much out there is so much out there about manifesting, um and there's everything from vision boarding and putting it out into the universe and speaking it as if it's there. And I'll tell you a funny story about something I did
Mm.
with that. When I was in lockdown, I downloaded this app called the book The Secret.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
Yeah. I downloaded the Secret Money app because I was broke, completely broke. And my mum had cancer at the time. I was
Mm.
taking care of her. My business had just basically closed down because offices had closed down. And I was just lost. Like I had no clue what to do, how to get out of this. And I downloaded this app, The Secret Money or something like that. And I was sending myself fake checks.
Mm.
And I remember telling my parents about this, and they were like, okay, Bryony's officially lost the plot. Like, we need an intervention here. But I remember I was sending myself fake checks for like specific key items. So you kind of have like everything from that extreme of manifesting to, vision boarding, and then working back in steps and doing the work, doing the action to then create that and bring that into your life. So, what is manifesting and what does it mean to you, and how can we at home manifest?
So manifesting obviously is an ancient universal law. So there's
Mm,
nothing new about manifesting. I write about it in the book. It's obviously in the 90s it was the secret, and then more recently it's the secret is the law of attraction, and more recently it's manifesting, and
yeah.
it's all the same thing. It's just the law of attraction. So the basic universal law that like attracts like, and it's about frequency. So
Hmm.
if you, and I describe it in the book, if you imagine yourself standing at a window and you are beaming out your radio show to the world, and that's it's about your frequency. So what a lot of manifesting practices get you to do is beam out, you know money, 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 or abundance,
Mm,
abundance, abundance, or relationship, 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 and put it on the vision board, and beam it out, beam it out, beam it out. But what I say to people is that when we do that, we're actually white knuckling. You are white knuckling. It's a white
mm.
it's there's a
Hoping for the best,
well, it's
hanging on
also
for dear life.
hanging on for dear life. Your fear, but it's very fear based.
Mm,
And the frequency, the universe picks up on the truth of the frequency. So we have to really send these things out with a real belief.
yeah.
There is this fake it till you make it thing, which does works. It works a bit. It does work a bit. I will say that. A big the big shifts come when we are really aligned though.
Mm, I agree.
And that's really what creates that then things are going to move in your life and you will notice the differences. And so many people come and see me and they'll say, I've been doing the vision boards and I've been doing the affirmations and nothing's working. And what I say to them is that that's because you've got some stuff, you've got some junk in your trunk that you need to just clear out, and which is what the process. It's the true essence process is a process. So we go through and we clear those blocks. We clear some of those blocks so that when you're at the window and your big radio transmissions happening, the universe can really hear and feel you, and then it will mirror back to you what it can hear and feel.
Yeah,
It meet you in that place. And that's what the law of attraction is. So
yeah,
if you're putting out, I really want to be in a relationship, and I see this all the time in my one-to-ones, but inside people are terrified of intimacy, terrified of being in a relationship. I'd rather think about it and fantasize about it than really be in it.
mm,
And so that's why I take people into the heart. We do the heart, we do heart work, we don't do head work. So the mind is really important for cognitive, it's really important to make sense of the energy of the heart. Mind, I sort of say body, heart, body, mind, rather than mind, body, spirit, but heart and spirit are the same thing. But I take people into the heart because the heart is a massive piece of kit that we have that most people don't really know about. But when we start to manifest from the heart or live a heart-led life, then
yeah,
things change exponentially. So what we know, like science tells us, that the heart has a mind of its own. It has neurons, neurotransmitters, support cells, that it actually sends more messages to the head than the head sends to the mind. It has a memory. And when we meditate with the heart, usually we're producing photons, are light particles made up of electromagnetic waves. And when we emit 20 per second. When we are doing a heart-based meditation, we come into our heart, we are emitting 100,000 per second.
wow,
So when you think about energy, you think about us being light beings, you think about all of the things that you may have read a little bit about or not, or you're dipping a toe in or thinking about. Those are the realities. Everything is made up of energy. It's all frequency. So when you want to do some real deep life-changing manifestation, which is what I'm interested in healing that is life-changing, that is moves quickly, exponential,
yeah,
and is dynamic. We're not getting stuck in that cul-de-sac of healing, staring at our navels and discussing it for, years on end. I mean, people come to see me and I say, look, I really love you, but I don't want to see you in X amount of time. Like it's great, but
yeah.
I want you to do the
A
work
quick fix.
and live
We
the
all want a quick fix.
everyone wants a quick fix, but I want you to live the life you were meant to live, right?
Yeah.
So, but that frequency it's about that. It's about aligning your energy, aligning your vibration.
And speaking of a quick fix, we do naturally want that, and I think as well for as much as possible, I try and bring like at home tips to this podcast because I think I just want takeaways as much as possible. So, how do you actually come out of your during let's say I'm meditating at home for 15 minutes. Got three kids that I've got to get to school. I've got to do my movement. I've got all these things. I'm doing my morning routine. I have 15 minutes for meditation. How do I come out of my head and into my heart in that 15 minutes to make it the most efficient, productive time?
Okay, well, we don't even really need 15 minutes, but we do start that in the book where you have a heart, you kind of keep a heart diary and you start to listen. It's
Okay.
like a muscle, okay, and you're practicing. You use that muscle, you use that bicep every day and it grows and that becomes, it's like an intuitive, it's just a natural, then it's just a natural thing that
Yeah.
you can drop in without having to really think about it. But we're going to drop in now. So I'm going to invite you to take both hands and pop those on your heart and pop your feet on the ground. And you are going to take a nice inhale in through the nose, nice deep, deep inhalation. And then we're exhaling through the mouth. Okay. So what I want you to notice there is that you are blowing. So if you want to look at me, this is a deep heart embodied breath. So I'm going to invite you to open your eyes first. So this is how it goes. We're breathing in, and then it's a yeah, that very deep sigh. Let's take a few of those. So you can close your eyes now and breathe like that. So that deep breath in, hold at the top for 2, 3, 4, and then deep exhale, that deep heart embodied exhalation, that sigh. Really into the bones, really into the body. And again, we'll do a few more of those. Find your wave. Find your own rhythm, like the sea. You can imagine just sitting at the, just where the water meets the sand, at the water's edge, and find your own rhythm. And again, deep breath in, hold at the top, and then sigh it through all the stagnant energy, letting it go. One more. We're drawing some light energy now. It's enough to just imagine it. Pouring through the crown, into the head, into the throat, and into the heart. Imagine that you're sitting underneath a waterfall of light. It's enough to just imagine it. Really filling the light in this moment like you're filling a cup with energy. Bringing that crystalline light energy all the way through into the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and filling the cup of the heart. And in this moment, we're just asking the heart, what are you feeling? Trusting the wisdom of the heart, allowing the words or the images to just rise from the heart. And then asking the heart, what do you need? What do you need today? Trusting what comes. I want to take one more nice inhale, exhale here, and listening to the heart, not the head. When the heart is ready, you're gently opening your eyes.
Feel very zen. Thank you for that. It's such a good and simple practice. And I think the breath actually, for me, at least, I really find the breath powerful as an anchor to connect to myself in the morning, especially. I try and, before all of my classes, we start with breath work. And I start with this exercise where I'm asking you to notice how you're feeling today. And that doesn't need to be, oh, feeling amazing. It could be like, oh, I'm feeling like shit, actually. I've been awake all night and I'm overwhelmed and blah, 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 blah. But then I'll do a 20-minute class where I'm then out of my head because I'm so in my body. And then at the end of the class, I'll come back to the breath and I feel that deeper connection to myself because I've been in my body. Does that make sense? It's almost like what you said about it's heart, body, mind.
Yeah.
I really find that. And it's almost like my morning routine is around that. It's like I'm connecting to my heart or my true essence through my body, having that moment of connection, and then throughout the day I'm able to switch my brain on in a really clear way.
Absolutely.
It's a really interesting way to look at it, and I think it's so simple, but it really does change your life. So thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. And I think a lot of connecting to your heart or embodying that healing process is through your body or through these practices. And I know for me it's really been transformational, and it gives me that self-belief and it gives me that confidence to then live in my true essence. So it has that powerful knock-on effect. So yeah, I've loved that. Thank you so much. And I know that we are coming to the end of our session, but there's been so many takeaways today, but I want to try and cram in a few more if we can do a bit of a quick fire round here. I always freestyle these quick fire rounds, so don't worry, you're just as prepared as I am because
Great.
I'm making them up as I go along. So, what is the one book that has changed your life or the way you view things?
Oh wow, there's a few books actually, but I do love Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. That was one of the big books of, of the sort of within this world and one of the first books, but it's amazing. It's really clear. It's a wonderful book to read, and I love her as well. So yeah, You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hay.
I agree. That's actually one of my, I'd say, top three books. It made
Yeah.
such a difference to me. What's one practice that people can do at home that takes 10 minutes that will change their life if they commit to it?
The heart embodied breathing technique, the heart embodied meditation, keeping a heart diary, but you can just do the meditation is life changing.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
When I was a TV presenter and we'd everyone would get really freaked out about getting to a place on time or not getting a piece to camera. It's only TV, and I think that it's really important that we keep our sense of humor when we're doing that we when we're doing everything we don't forget to keep things into perspective, put things in perspective and right size things and not take everything too seriously. Don't take yourself
Yeah,
too seriously.
I love that. And finally, what's one takeaway that you want to leave the listeners with?
Just that we are, so lucky and privileged to be able to sit down and have conversations like this one, and that and be in communities like this one. And my one takeaway is to really be the love that you wish to see in the world. For me, the humanity's next revolution is a revolution of the heart. And, that's really the place that we are. We will make great changes, but be the love that you want to see in the world.
That's so nice. I love that. And where can we all find you and find more information about you?
You can go to my website, estellebingham.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. I've got a newsletter. I'm estelle.bingham on Instagram. I've got a TikTok somewhere as well. There's a lot of crystals on my TikTok. And obviously the book, Manifest Your True Essence, I read the Audible, so that's quite nice. And you can just get that wherever you buy your books, Amazon and bookshops. And I've got a podcast, Love Purpose Connection podcast,
Ooh.
which is
Oh,
great.
great. Oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait to listen.
you'll love it actually. Very up your street.
Thank you so much for today. Thank you for your time. I've
It's been
loved this.
wonderful, so
Thank
wonderful.
you. And thank you everyone for listening.